The planet Xylos orbited a binary sun, casting long violet shadows across its crystalline deserts. Towering bioluminescent fungi pulsed with an eerie light, illuminating cities carved from amethyst and obsidian. Xylos was home to the Krill, a species of aquatic humanoids obsessed with order and martial precision. Their society functioned like a perfectly synchronized school of fish. Every Krill citizen adhered to a strict code of conduct, their lives meticulously planned from birth to nutrient recycling. Emotions were suppressed, individuality discouraged, and adherence to tradition was paramount. Then came Dave. Dave wasn't from Xylos. Dave wasn't even trying. He'd arrived via a malfunctioning interdimensional transport pod, crash-landing his escape vehicle directly into the Krill High Command's ceremonial koi pond. Dave, a man whose uniform consisted of a faded Hawaiian shirt, cargo shorts, and perpetually mismatched socks, emerged from the wreckage, scratching his head. "Well, that was a bit dodgy," he drawled, completely oblivious to the chaos he'd unleashed. The Krill High Command, a council of stern-faced generals with gills and razor-sharp tridents, stared at him in stunned silence. Their meticulously planned day of strategic simulations and synchronized swimming routines was now disrupted. General Krill, Supreme Commander of the Krill Defense Forces, finally found his voice, which resonated with the authority of 1,000 crashing waves. "Identify yourself, intruder, state your purpose." Dave squinted at the assembled Krill, pulling a pair of sunglasses from his pocket. "Name's Dave," he said with a shrug. "Purpose? Mostly just trying to find a decent cup of coffee if you have one." The Krill exchanged bewildered glances. Coffee? This alien, who had violated countless protocols just by existing, wanted coffee? "Coffee is an irrelevant substance," General Krill boomed, his gills flaring. "We are Krill. We consume Nutrient Paste 7 Formula 3. It is efficient." Dave grimaced. "Sounds delightful," he said, dripping with sarcasm. "But I'll stick with the coffee, thanks. Preferably something strong enough to wake the dead, or at least tolerate another interdimensional jaunt." This was the first of many cultural clashes. Dave's casual disregard for Krill customs, his bizarre attire, and his perplexing obsession with caffeinated beverages immediately marked him as an anomaly, a threat to their rigidly structured society. The Krill, with their unwavering belief in order and their utter lack of understanding of human sarcasm, were about to learn a very important lesson. Never underestimate a man in a Hawaiian shirt with a craving for coffee. The Krill, for instance, held the great Unification ceremony sacred. It was a ritualistic reenactment of their species' evolutionary journey from warring tribes to a unified militaristic force. Each Krill was required to participate, performing synchronized swimming routines while chanting ancient battle hymns. Dave naturally missed the memo. Instead, he wandered into the middle of the ceremony, mistaking it for some sort of aquatic aerobics class. He started doing his own freestyle strokes, splashing water everywhere and humming the tune of "Staying Alive." The synchronized swimming came to an abrupt halt. Krill stared, aghast, as Dave performed an enthusiastic and entirely off-key rendition of the Bee Gees classic, his Hawaiian shirt billowing in the water. General Krill nearly choked on his own gills. The Krill had specific protocols for greetings. They involved a complex series of bioluminescent flashes and trident salutes. Failure to execute these precisely was considered a grave insult. Dave, upon meeting a high-ranking Krill scientist, Dr. Krill-Enstein, no relation to the other Frankenstein, as Dave was quick to point out, simply offered a high five. "Sup, Doc," he said, grinning. Dr. Krill-Enstein recoiled as if he'd been stung. His bioluminescent patterns flickered erratically, signaling extreme distress. The other Krill in the lab murmured amongst themselves, their suspicion growing. Was this Dave deliberately trying to offend them? Then there was the matter of the sacred kelp forest. This underwater grove was considered a holy site, a place of meditation and spiritual reflection. Krill were expected to enter in silence, contemplate the mysteries of the universe, and leave without disturbing a single strand of kelp. Dave, armed with a snorkel and a waterproof camera, decided it looked like a snorkeling hotspot. He proceeded to take selfies with bewildered sea slugs, leaving a trail of misplaced kelp and bubbles in his wake. He even attempted to teach a group of young Krill recruits how to do underwater handstands, completely disrupting their meditative practices. The Krill elders were furious, deeming this an act of sacrilege. The more Dave interacted with the Krill, the more bewildered and suspicious they became. His actions, seemingly random and disrespectful, were perceived as a deliberate assault on their traditions. Whispers spread throughout the Krill community. Who was this Dave, and what was he really after? General Krillax, his patience-wearing, thin, ordered a full investigation into Dave's background and motives. He assigned his top lieutenant, Commander Krill-joy, to shadow Dave's every move, hoping to uncover the truth behind his bizarre behavior. "Observe this. Human," Krillax commanded, his voice tight with controlled fury. "Record his every action, analyze his every word. We must determine if he is merely ignorant or if he poses a genuine threat to our way of life." The tension on Xylos was rising like the tide before a storm. The Krill community, a collective hive mind though it was, buzzed with unease. Dave's unintentional cultural faux pas had escalated from amusing quirks to potential threats in their eyes. His casual disregard for their most sacred traditions sparked a growing fear. Was he an infiltrator, a saboteur, or something far stranger? Commander Krill-joy, a hardened veteran with 1,000 underwater skirmishes under his belt, found himself utterly baffled by his assignment. Shadowing Dave was unlike any mission he'd ever undertaken. Usually he dealt with enemy combatants, strategic maneuvers, and tactical objectives. Dave, on the other hand, seemed to operate on a plane of existence Krill-joy couldn't even begin to comprehend. His reports were filled with increasingly bizarre observations. Subject ingested a hot dog, a terrestrial foodstuff of questionable nutritional value, during the remembrance ceremony for the fallen Krill, one entry read. He then proceeded to request mustard and relish, further desecrating the solemn occasion. Another report detailed Dave's attempt to improve the Krill's bioluminescent communication system by suggesting they add emoticons. Krill-joy simply wrote that the suggestion was unfathomable. The council is reviewing security protocols. General Krillax, receiving these reports, felt a headache throbbing behind his eyes. He reviewed the data streams, attempting to find a logical pattern in Dave's behavior. Was he trying to destabilize their society? Was he mocking their beliefs? Or was he just a complete idiot? The Krill's top scientists were brought in to analyze Dave's physiology, his psychology, his every twitch and utterance. Dr. Krill-Enstein, still smarting from the high-five incident, spearheaded the effort. They scanned his brainwaves, analyzed his DNA, and even attempted to decipher his sense of humor, a task which proved nearly impossible. The results were inconclusive. Dave was normal. Disturbingly, bafflingly normal. He showed no signs of malicious intent, no hidden agendas, no evidence of advanced technology or espionage training. And yet his actions were so disruptive, so human that they couldn't possibly be innocent. Could they? Krillax, desperate for answers, decided to confront Dave directly. He summoned him to his underwater headquarters, a vast chamber of coral and steel, ready to demand an explanation for his behavior. He had a carefully prepared list of accusations, a series of questions designed to expose Dave's true motives. He adjusted his ceremonial trident, straightened his bioluminescent crest, and steeled himself for the confrontation. He'd get to the bottom of this, one way or another. The fate of Xylos might depend on it. Dave, oblivious to the turmoil he was causing, continued to explore Xylos with the wide-eyed curiosity of a tourist and the mischievous streak of a bored teenager. He'd begun to notice the Krill's discomfort, but, in typical human fashion, he mistook it for shyness. He decided to loosen them up a bit. His first target was the Krillian Defense Grid, a vast network of underwater sonic resonators designed to repel enemy ships. To the Krill, it was a symbol of their military might, a testament to their unwavering vigilance. To Dave, it looked like a giant sound system. One afternoon, while touring the grid, Dave pulled out a small device from his pocket, an old MP3 player he'd salvaged from his crashed ship. Ignoring the frantic clicking of the Krill technicians, he plugged it into one of the resonators. Suddenly, the somber, low-frequency hum of the defense grid was replaced by the ear-splitting opening chords of Bohemian Rhapsody. The Krill, who communicated primarily through subsonic vibrations, were thrown into a state of utter sensory overload. Krill-joy, who arrived on the scene moments later, could only stare in horror as the entire defense grid pulsed with flashing lights and operatic vocals. He tried to shut it down, but Dave, grinning like a loon, stopped him. "Wait for the guitar solo," he said. "It's epic." The Krillian Council was in an uproar. Some demanded Dave's immediate detention, others called for his exile, and a few even suggested re-education. Krillax, however, saw an opportunity. He couldn't deny the utter chaos Dave had caused, but he couldn't ignore the effect. Reports were coming in from all over Xylos. Krill, normally stoic and reserved, were dancing. Schools of fish were gathering near the defense grid, seemingly mesmerized by the music. Even the notoriously grumpy sea urchins seemed to be tapping, their little spines to the beat. Krillax realized that Dave wasn't trying to destroy their society, he was simply reinterpreting it. And perhaps, just perhaps, that wasn't such a bad thing. He decided to take a more subtle approach, to understand Dave's perspective. He summoned Dr. Krill-Enstein once more. "Doctor," he said, "I want you to analyze this music, determine its effects, its purpose, its appeal." Dr. Krill-Enstein, still recovering from the high five and now suffering from a queen-induced headache, simply groaned. His life had taken a turn for the absurd the moment Dave had arrived. Meanwhile, Dave had moved on to his next project, the Krillian Food Synthesizer. This device, a marvel of bioengineering, could convert raw seawater into nutrient-rich algae paste, the staple food of the krill. It was efficient, sustainable, and utterly bland. Dave, however, thought it could use a little flavor. He spent days rummaging through his ship's wreckage, searching for anything edible. He eventually found a dusty old box of spices, chili powder, cumin, garlic salt, and a suspiciously green packet labeled ranch dressing mix. Ignoring the warning labels written in a language he couldn't understand, Dave dumped the entire contents of the box into the food synthesizer. The results were explosive. The algae paste, now a vibrant shade of orange, tasted like a cross between a volcano and a taco. The krill, who had never experienced anything remotely spicy, reacted with a mixture of shock, horror, and, strangely, enjoyment. Some spat it out immediately, their bioluminescent crests flashing red with distress. Others cautiously took another bite, their eyes widening in surprise. Krillax, who sampled the concoction himself, found his mouth burning, his gills throbbing, and his entire being questioning the very nature of reality. But amidst the chaos, he detected something else. A faint, almost imperceptible smile on the face of a nearby krill. Perhaps he thought this human wasn't a threat at all. Perhaps he was a chef. The climax arrived during the annual Krillian Harmony Festival, a planet-wide celebration of their collective consciousness. The highlight of the festival was the unisonic resonance, a synchronized vocalization by every krill on Xylos, creating a powerful wave of sonic energy that was said to promote unity and peace. Or, as Dave saw it, a really good opportunity for a remix. Dave, armed with his trusty MP3 player and a portable amplifier he'd cobbled together from spare parts, positioned himself near the central resonator, the heart of the unisonic system. As the krill began their solemn chanting, Dave hit play. Instead of the harmonious drone they expected, the krill were met with the opening bars of Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. The central resonator, now blasting cheesy 80s pop, sent the song echoing across the entire planet. The unisonic resonance turned into a planet-wide Rickroll. Panic erupted. The Krillian Council sputtered in disbelief. Krillax face-palmed so hard he nearly cracked his skull. But then something unexpected happened. A few of the younger Krill, initially horrified, started bopping. Their bioluminescent crests flashed in time to the music. Tentacles started tapping. The older Krill, aghast at this blatant disrespect for tradition, tried to stop them, but it was too late. The infectious rhythm of "Never Gonna Give You Up" had taken hold. Soon the entire planet was swaying, singing, or at least attempting to sing, along to the iconic tune. Dr. Krill-Enstein, watching the scene unfold on a holographic screen, finally snapped. He threw his lab coat to the floor, ripped off his bio-monitoring sensors, and started doing the robot. It's beautiful," he shrieked, before collapsing in a fit of giggles. Krillax, initially mortified, slowly began to understand. The unisonic resonance, for all its supposed power, had become stale, a hollow ritual devoid of genuine feeling. Dave, in his infinite cluelessness, had injected it with something real. Joy. The revelation hit him like a sonic blast. The Krill weren't a militaristic, hyperlogical species. They were just a bunch of uptight, musically repressed weirdos who needed to lighten up. And Dave, the bumbling, sarcastic human, had been the one to show them how. The twist? The Krillian defense. Grid, the food synthesizer, the unisonic resonance. They weren't weapons or strategic systems at all. They were all components of a planet-sized karaoke machine designed to bring joy and unity to the Krill. The algae paste was just there to give them energy to sing all day. The Krill were just too embarrassed to admit it. The embarrassment was short-lived. As the song reached its crescendo, Krillax grabbed a microphone, which he suddenly understood the purpose of, and joined in, his voice surprisingly good for a crustacean. The Krillian Harmony Festival turned into the biggest, cheesiest karaoke party the galaxy had ever seen. In the aftermath, Xylos was different. The rigid structures of Krillian society hadn't crumbled, but they'd certainly softened around the edges. Spontaneous bursts of song became commonplace, often followed by awkward, embarrassed silences and hurried returns to protocol. But the seed had been planted. Krillax, now sporting a slightly less severe expression and a newfound appreciation for 80s music, approached Dave. "Human," he said, his voice still gravelly but lacking its usual edge. "You have complicated things." Dave, lounging on a repurposed algae farm, now a dance floor, grinned. "That's kind of my specialty," he replied. The long-term consequences were subtle but significant. The Krill started incorporating more human elements into their culture. Awkward dance-offs, bizarre fashion trends based on Dave's wardrobe, and a disturbing fascination with reality TV. The galaxy watched in amusement and horror as Xylos transformed from a militaristic powerhouse to a planet of slightly unhinged karaoke enthusiasts. Perhaps the greatest irony was that the Krill, in their attempt to understand humanity, had inadvertently embraced its most ridiculous aspects. They still didn't quite grasp sarcasm or irony, but they were getting there. And as they belted out another chorus of "Never Gonna Give You Up," slightly off-key and with questionable enthusiasm, Dave couldn't help but smile. He'd come to Xylos expecting a war, and instead, he'd accidentally started a planet-wide party. Who knew, he muttered to himself, saving the galaxy could be so cheesy. And so, the tale of Dave, the human who rickrolled an alien planet, became a legend. A legend whispered in hushed tones in the corridors of the Galactic Senate, a cautionary tale of the unpredictable nature of humanity, and a testament to the surprising power of a really catchy song. The galaxy, for better or worse, would never be quite the same.